I made 2 sourdough loaves today that look like rabbits.
Of course she made. Of course she did. Of course she did. I still got to get you my
The
Italian
first one
flour.
looks very sad. I need a bigger Dutch oven because it's like
They're squished.
they're squished. Oh my God. I did post it on my Instagram, but yeah. So
I'll have to go look after this.
yeah, you'll have to go look. I don't know.
Oh, wait, there they are. Or I can't. Are you sure it's a rabbit?
Yeah, those are the ear, and that's the
Hmm.
head, and that's the front line, that's the back line.
If you if you are listening to this and not watching, I would encourage you to go watch the first minute of the YouTube where Tana holds up her phone.
Oh my God. It's like
I'm not
so bad.
convinced. I'm not convinced it's a rabbit, Tana. I'm sorry. Hang on, I'm going to look and see.
It's like it's so bad, but like it's so funny. I was talking to my sister about it last night, and she's like, I kind of hope they totally flop because way better.
Oh, okay. I see it better in this picture that you posted than in the picture that you showed me. Yes. I
Just
mean, they they could also be aliens.
could be. Could
Maybe.
be.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So
Whatever
that's
you
what
got to
I've been
do.
doing. Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
what I've been doing and crying.
Tana's having a resurfacing grief. Grief works like that sometimes, guys. Well, that may be more exciting than what I've been doing. I've been editing
Yeah.
videos this morning and went for a short little bike ride and dealing with insurance forms, really exciting adult
Yeah.
stuff.
I feel like you need to talk about that like for a minute.
Well, today's Saturday. For anybody listening, I know this will come out on Thursday. It will have been a full week from the actual incident. But Thursday that just passed, I was in a car accident on a pretty major highway here in southern Wisconsin in a construction zone. It was, like where you have to merge, like where they go from 2 lanes to 1 lane for construction zone. And so I was merging. And as I was merging, I was rear ended by a semi truck that pretty much crushed the back of my car. I'm fine, miraculously enough. I drive a Tesla. This isn't a plug for Tesla, but other than to say it was apparently a very safe vehicle. The airbags didn't go off. Car called 911 right after the accident. All of those sorts of things. Pretty scary. I certainly haven't fully processed or dealt with all of it, but went to urgent care after just to make sure because I was like, I don't know, like I just got slammed into by a semi truck. I have no idea if like the seatbelt did anything or whiplash or whatever. So I just wanted to get checked out. Everything looked fine. 3 days, 2 days, however many days later it is. I, all things considered, I feel okay. We'll see. I think that, Aaron and I talked about it afterwards. Like, I don't know. There's a bunch of stuff like this is just like adult stupid shit, right? Like, I just don't know what I should do. Do I need a lawyer? Like what should we be looking into in terms of insurance related things for an accident like this? Like,
Yeah.
are they going to total the car? We don't know if they're going to total the car or not. Like, yeah, so just all that kind of crap.
So he was on the phone with you when this happened, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Did he know like immediately what
Uh,
happened or like what happens in the car? Because
well,
I
yeah, so
assume it
it's
hangs
like,
up then, right?
well, it was like connected, like, so my phone is connected through the car. So I wasn't like on the
Yep.
phone on the phone. I was talking to him in the car. This is like a
Yep.
normal thing on a drive home from work. And we were just chatting about like what we were going to do in the evening. And he heard the car hit me or the truck hit me. And I screamed. I was like, oh, I don't remember exactly what I said, but I was like, he just hit me. And he was like, what? And I was like, he just hit me. A truck just hit me. And then once the car was stopped, it was dialing nine. Like he wasn't on the phone anymore. The car was dialing
Oh, okay.
911. So it like the car took over at that point. and dialed 911. So it obviously hung up on him.
Yeah.
But then he came immediately to where I was. So in addition to the car dialing 911, the car also sent a notification to all the people who we have multiple drivers on our account, and it sent notifications to everyone who was a driver on the account, like that the car had been, that there was a impact or whatever. And then it also sent a second notification that the car had dialed 911. All of that stuff went through to all the drivers that are on the car. So Aaron knew, even though he was on the phone with me and it hung up, he then got the notifications from the car also.
Right. Ugh.
So
Well, when you sent me the pictures, I was like, holy shit. Like, looking at it, it looks, at least the two pictures that you sent me, I was like, oh, that's totaled for sure.
yeah,
He was,
I
it, like, based on the video, he was going fast.
yes. And the only reason I think, the cars in front of me. So this is the other like amazing thing about Teslas. If you don't have a Tesla, I also told Aaron I will no longer ever drive a car that doesn't have a million cameras on it after this.
Right.
Because you can see exactly what happened, and there are 8, I forget how many cameras, but there's like a whole bunch of cameras around the Tesla. That's how Tesla full self-driving works, is by all of the cameras that are running. And when you are driving the car is continuously recording on all external cameras. And it just records on a 1-hour loop in 1-minute increments. So it's like 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. So it cuts off. So they're all like short little clips, but for one continuous hour, and then it just overwrites. So if you drive multiple hours, right, it'll just overwrite every hour that you drive. And Aaron went, after they towed the car, Aaron went to the yard where it was at and he pulled the USB that stores all of that data, because obviously there wouldn't be any additional driving after the accident. So it would all still be there. We started going through it, and you can see there's the front. So you can see like me, like coming around, like passing the truck and then needing to get over into the other lane. And you can see how much space there was. You can also see like all the cars in front of me that were braking. Then like I'm slowing down because the cars in front of me are braking. Then in the rear facing camera, you can see him just, it looks like he never even attempts to brake. Like he never even saw me. That's what the video looks like. I don't know. Did he brake? Was he going faster? And that, I don't know.
Didn't look like he even attempted to break based off of
Yeah.
what I saw, but
Yeah. In the videos, it doesn't look like it, but it's like, he, whatever at this point.
yeah.
So he like slammed into me once and then a second time. So like he hit me twice, and the car in one of the video, like in the video after the impact, you can see that I was getting pushed towards the ditch. That section of the highway has like a very deep ditch. So I was being like, the impact sort of shoved me to the right. And I was like, I don't want to go down the ditch. Do you know what I mean? Like I was worried, like if I hit the soft side of the road, not necessarily that I would roll, but just that the car would like slide down the ditch. So I steered back to the left, but then what happens is Tesla also locks up and like won't allow you to continue moving forward. So like it locked all of the wheels, and so then I was like stuck in the middle of the highway because the
Yeah.
car just like would not move anymore.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're in one piece. Yeah. That was a very not, I can't imagine how you were feeling, because I was like, what do I do? Like,
Well, it's
what
funny.
do I?
Two of our coworkers stopped. Like
Uh-huh.
I left our parking lot basically at the same time as someone else, and so or just ahead of someone else. She was like walking to her car as I was pulling out. So she saw me. She saw the car and actually like pulled over. I wasn't even out of the car, and she like had pulled over and
Mm.
like came up to the car. And so she stayed with me until Aaron got there.
Got
And then she left because she didn't see the actual accident. She just recognized the car when she was driving by. And then another coworker of ours also stopped and was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yep, I'm." At this point, I'm like standing, like I know, like yes, the adrenaline hasn't worn off, but I'm pretty sure nothing is like broken because I can stand, I can walk, like
Mhm.
yeah. And so then she went on. And then Friday morning, like I got a whole like barrage of messages from people as they were finding out about it, and like other people who had driven by but just didn't recognize the car. But and so that's like the excitement of the week and all the reasons to have a car with a million cameras on it. So, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I think glad, like I said, glad you're in one piece and puts some stuff into perspective, like even for like whenever anything happens like that, I always like picture like what would I do? I was like, what I had this whole thought process of like, oh my God, what if that happened and the kids were in the car? Like, oh my God. Like,
Like thank God I was by myself and there was no one else.
I
Yeah.
wonder how that would have impacted people that were in the back seat.
Yeah, I don't know other than like if you look at the car from the back,
Yeah.
it's like crushed. And
Yeah.
the bumper is like completely crushed like up to where
Yeah.
you can see like metal sticking through, which I assume is like
Mhm.
I don't know if that like what part of the frame I don't know exactly
Mhm.
how all that underneath the car stuff works. I know that the batteries in Tesla sit like in the middle on the bottom. And so I'm sure there's like frame built around that. It's one of the reasons that they have really high safety ratings is the way that the batteries sit in there. But yeah, so like the whole back of it looks crushed. If I'm very creative when I edit this video, and I make no promises, I can try to like flash a picture in the YouTube. But like, again, I make no promises in the edit of this that I will get that creative. But the whole rest of the car, like if you were to look at the car from the front, it looks totally fine. Like it's not or the side, like if you didn't see like the back,
Yeah.
it's totally
That's so
fine. All the
crazy.
doors opened, like it didn't like shove the
Mhm.
doors forward. That's why I'm like, I don't know. Maybe they won't total it. The frame could be
Yeah.
jacked. The frame might be jacked. I don't know.
Right.
But like, it shattered the back window, crushed the tailgate. I don't know how it would have been with people in the back seat other than I could open all of the doors fine. Yeah.
Crazy. Well, unrelated is our topic for this
Very,
week.
very unrelated. So if you've stuck it out for this 12 or so minutes about a car accident, we'll get on with the topic, which is going to be around center of expression. And we haven't talked about center of expression in a long time. I know it was a topic
Yeah.
early on, and we may have even combined center of expression with another topic at the time that we discussed it. But so this is another core construct related to the Enneagram. It's also sometimes called center of intelligence.
Book for this discussion.
So when we think about it for center of expression, though, it's really about the language that we use to describe like what's happening. When we think about the centers otherwise, centers is one of the things that you definitely has. I mean, a lot of areas of the Enneagram have development opportunities, but center of expression also has like you can change it. You can work on it, you can develop it over time, you can learn sort of other ways to express yourself or other ways to utilize the center to help you. So it's not, this is very much a developmental sort of thing. And the idea behind the centers, if you listen to Suzanne Stabile talk about them, is to balance them. Like we don't want to overutilize one of our centers over the other two. Like we want to bring them into balance, like as we're working through this.
Right. There's like little one plug like before we get into it too is like obviously we can't express enough to like do a paid assessment. Like the free online assessments will not go in depth into your centers of expression. It is super helpful because it's a bit about how you show up in the world. It's a little bit of how people perceive you, whether you're a, thinker, feeler, doer. And to Holly's point, it like you can you can move through them differently, and ideally you're balanced, right? But this is also something that's really hard to understand if you don't truly take a moment with the assessment to learn a little bit about where you're at from a baseline perspective. It always would get really confusing to me when I would think about each of the centers, and if I think about how I behave in conflict, right? Like sometimes the feeling that I have because I'm a high feeler is so big that I don't even understand at what point I'm thinking or acting or what, like, I couldn't comprehend initially. So the assessment is worth it for so many reasons from a, like, true, you don't even have to do IEQ 9. You could do any other, paid. I don't know who else offers like the in-depth poly.
I'm not sure who else offers. Oh, there's a Enneagram coach out there who's like developed his own assessment. I'm not sure if his does or not, but his is more expensive than IEQ 9. It's like over $100.
Oh, well.
Um,
Yeah.
and his may include it. The IEQ 9 is the only one I know of that includes subtype, center of expression, conflict, like all of it in one assessment, where you don't have to do like additional assessments to get the information. The other thing I find super helpful, and we're not sponsored, we are both certified by IEQ 9, but we're not sponsored by them. We don't make any money by talking about their assessment. The one thing I will say is that it also measures things in such a way that it can be what's not normal. So if you learn your Enneagram type through the narrative tradition, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, I do believe that's a way to learn your Enneagram type, they will talk about what is most typical, right? Which is that 8, 9s, and 1s are in the action center of expression, 2, 3s, and 4s are the feeling center of expression, and 5, 6, and 7 are in the thinking center of expression, which matches against those same triads when we talk about head, heart, gut. But what the IEQ 9 will do is it will actually measure for you personally. So just because you're in the feeling center as a 2, 3, or 4, you could in fact have your center of expression be highest in thinking based on your own life experiences, the job you have, what was rewarded when you were growing up, all the things. So I think that nuance is also important, and you don't necessarily get that from a lot of assessments that would actually pinpoint those differences.
Yeah, I worked with another 2 this week, and their center of expression order was feeling was second, which is unique for a 2. My feeling is first from a more traditional perspective, where my centers of expression as a 2 are feeling, thinking, acting. So I will act last.
I am typical 2 for a 5, and I'm thinking, feeling. So you and I are opposite there. So thinking, feeling, action in my center of expression. But that, I would say that's thinking first is typical for 5s. Feeling first is typical for 2s. But the 2 that you spoke to that's highest in thinking, I know other 2s also that express highest in thinking. I know like 3s, while they fall into the feeling triad, they typically express in one of the other 2 because they're a little bit feeling avoidant. And I do know a 3 who's like extremely high feeling in terms of center. So there can be nuance to everyone in this. And sometimes I think it's just important to sort of understand also how the rest of the world perceives each of these centers from an expression standpoint. When I teach this and I'm teaching the Enneagram, I will talk about if it's purely from an expression standpoint, it's about the language that we're using. So if you're highest in thinking, you're going to use cognitive language. I think this, I think that, I'm curious about, I wonder, right? It's language that like denotes thinking. And then feeling numbers will talk about things through feeling language. I feel this, I feel that. Did you notice the vibe in the room? Something felt off, something felt good, right? It's going to be very much about the feeling of the environment they were in or the interaction that they had. And if it's an action-oriented number, it's most of the language is going to be verbs. Or like, when are we going to move? When are we going to go? When are we going to start? Like, it's that kind of movement related
Yeah.
language. And
Yeah.
what happens is that we tend to believe, at least in the United States, that people that express themselves with the action language are the most confident.
Mhm.
And that you're less confident if you're like, I think this, I feel this, and you use that sort of language to express yourself. And that is not the case. And I think we overly lean into those things without having full understanding, right? Like we attach meaning that's not real.
Right. Right. The practitioner book from IEQ 9 specific to the centers of expression kind of works through. So it goes through action first, then feeling, then thinking in terms of the cadence of the book. But then it goes through, when action is supported by feeling. So then it would be action, feeling, thinking, action supported by thinking, which would be action, thinking, feeling, so on and so forth. And there's really good tidbits in here about like even just 3 quick words about, so somebody who is action first, then feeling, then thinking might show up as intuitive with an impulsive people focus, and kind of gives a little bit of a tip of like slowing down, taking time to process their feelings and think more will improve decisions. So that's super helpful for me to kind of visualize the steps of the process. The hardest part is slowing yourself down enough to understand in any given moment where you're at, in my experience.
I think where you and I are similar is in that the thinking and the feeling are both first. And the way that when I think about it for me personally, is I can get an idea about something and I'll think about whatever this is. Like, I want to do this thing. I'm thinking about it. Here's all the steps. Here's all the whatever, thinking, 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 thinking. I then will get feelings about what I'm thinking about, right? So, well, if I do that, that's going to feel this kind of way. Or what if this happens and then that feels bad and I don't want it to feel that kind of way and blah, blah, blah,
Mhm.
right? And I can then loop in thinking, feeling, like think about it, feel about it, think about it, feel about it, and never actually move to action because action is last. And I'm so busy imagining the scenario and what it will feel like that I never actually take action, or I'm very slow to take action because of that. And so in my case, it's not about slowing down to think and make better decisions. It's about fucking getting up and like doing the thing. It's about moving
Right.
forward, right? So that's like every combination of these is going to have like that like piece of it of like the lowest one is the one where you're like I got to do it. For in my
Mhm.
case, it's like, I got to take the action. I need to stop
Mhm.
thinking about it and go do it because I'm never going to know if I don't do
Mhm.
anything.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. So the thinking, feeling, action words kind of associated are rational, reflective, and systems thinker. So it like the coaching mention in there talks about how if you have this particular setup, you could get frustrated because you're kind of in a loop and you just need to like what's the worst thing that could happen if you just acted on it? Um so that's what's in here. I notice for it feels like action is coming like a lot quicker for you these days. I mean, a lot of development work is, I'm sure, a part of that, and some really good awareness skills. But My question for you with action being last is how do you, I mean, how does that resonate when you know which part of that cadence you're in and that you know you need to take action? Naturally, I'm asking. Like, what's the feeling
Yeah, okay.
part of
Uh,
that?
I I don't know that it's a little bit of a sometimes taking the action is to offload the feeling or the thought. I said this to Brandon once. We were talking about a decision I needed to make, and I had to have made the I'm well past I made the decision before the time. But I was thinking about doing Ironman Lake Placid this year. And I had kind of a window of time where I was like, this is like the cutoff date of like, you have to decide by this date or you don't have time to do like the build that you need to do for the Ironman. And I was probably 6 weeks out from like that deadline. And I was like, I don't know what to do. I keep thinking about it. I'm just not sure. Like if I like what I really want, blah, blah, blah. There's all these other reasons, right? And we were talking through, and he's like, well, you don't have to decide right now. Just wait. Decide when you get closer to the deadline. And I was like, Brandon, don't you ever just want to make a decision so that you don't have to think about it anymore?
Right.
And
Yeah.
he was like, no. And so that's more of like what happens is I get to that's that point of frustration where I get to like a point where I'm like, I just don't want to think and feel about this anymore. So I'm going to decide. And the decision then like creates the action. So that the breaking point is the frustration usually. Like I'm tired of having it in my head.
That's interesting. So let's kind of think about this backwards then. Now, for people who might be action first, my husband is action first, feeling last, no feeling from the eight, social eight in the house, which is oftentimes why he doesn't understand why people get their feelings hurt by things that he does or says. I would argue that he also does not spend a lot of time in the thinking center, which is a little bit surprising for him, but I think unless he feels like it's a bit monumental is when I notice that he will almost get stuck in a thinking feeling loop. So he'll get stuck kind of on the back end.
What do you mean by monumental? Like what like
Um, like a really traumatic event that he witnessed at work
sure.
where he'll think about it and then he'll have a feeling and then he doesn't like the feeling, but then he goes back to the thinking about it again.
Yeah. Well, the other thing we didn't touch on for high thinkers is they can confuse their thoughts with feelings. So just as a note, we can circle back on that. So there's that, just as a call out for the 8, even though thinking is or feeling is the lowest in terms of how his center of expression and how he uses the centers.
Yeah.
But there could be a confusing thoughts for feelings that's happening.
Mhm.
In my experience, people who act first, it usually is driven by a feeling that they just don't have great awareness of. And by
Mhm.
feeling, I don't mean emotional feeling. I mean like a body, like a physical, like a heart racing, there's
Mhm.
like a physical body thing that is happening that drives them to act. And they're
Mhm.
trying to move that, whatever that physical reaction is that they're having.
Mhm.
So there's
Yeah.
that, and it often to with what your husband does for work, it also would make sense, right? Like that's a quick moving, like we go now, we gotta go, we gotta go, we gotta go. Like the things are reactive in nature.
Mm.
So that's gonna make him double. If he naturally wants to do that, that's gonna reinforce that, right? Of the You want
Right.
the high action people in first responder type jobs. Like, I want someone who's going to act first to run into the
Mhm.
burning building to save me,
Mhm.
right? And not to think
Mhm.
about it too much.
Right.
Yeah. So, like, that's the advantage of that action center happening. But when you go act feel, usually it's like I have an action and then I've got a feeling about it. Or he's not act feel, act think. I act and then I think about it after it's happened.
Yep.
And the thinking after it's happened sometimes leads us to believe we've taken wrong action.
Sure.
And that could also cause the like stewing in it or the ruminating or the if this had been different, if that had been different kind
Mhm.
of. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd be curious to see if there's any tie to a person's tendency in fight or flight and their centers of expression.
I mean, maybe the fight, flight, freeze, fawn
Yeah.
could. Yeah. Maybe. We could ask the interwebs. I think that feeling being the lowest is most likely it's just that sometimes when they talk about the way the centers are stacked, they'll talk about the lowest one being repressed.
Sure.
And the lowest one, like, so if he's repressing feeling, that's the
Right.
opportunity for him to learn how to sit in it in a more healthy way or learn how to let it instead of shoving it aside, like let it move, let the emotions move through.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
always I'm such a high thinker. It's so curious to me, people who do act without thinking, even if they're not in like a first responder job. When I think about other people that I know that are highest in action, it's just very curious to me. Like, well, I just did it. And you didn't consider anything, you didn't think about it, you just did
Yeah.
it. Like, just
Yeah.
blows my mind. Yeah.
Most people who I know like that are so glaringly obvious because sometimes their action is so high to the point where it's like reckless, where they they do things or say things in the moment as like an action that they haven't. Sometimes I'm like, Have you considered?" Like, I find myself in situations with those individuals where I end up, because my feeling is so high, I have a reaction to what they're doing, and my feeling is like, "Have you considered how that makes anyone else feel?"
Nope. Sure haven't.
No. The answer to that is no.
I also think about, in terms of center of expression, how much is like nature versus nurture, right? Like, if you were raised in a house where your feelings were validated and talked about and whatever, does that make you higher in feeling or not? I don't know. Cause like Laura talks about that sometimes. We'll have to have her back on at some point or another. But she talks about that in her house. Her mom wanted to talk about feelings all the time and she never wanted to. She's like, no, I don't want to talk about it.
Saying.
Yeah. So I don't, that would be another curious, like how much of this is like instinctual for a person versus
Mhm.
learned or,
Mhm.
yeah, validated in some way.
Yeah. That would be interesting to learn. I think, at least in my situation, it was that there were so many feelings in the house, but they weren't talked about.
You were navigating them, right?
Yes.
It was I feel all of this and I'm navigating it. So you're just
Yes.
highly tuned into it.
Yes. So, therefore, it's the easiest thing for me to tap into because it was everywhere. It was just you had to navigate it correctly
Yeah.
and interpret it the right way. Because even I still have gaps in this today where my husband's an 8, so he does everything the man has brushed his teeth so hard on the right side that he needs like recessive gum surgery. He called me yesterday and told me about that, and I was like, that's because everything you do is aggressive.
Yeah. Yeah.
You brush your
Yeah.
teeth, aggressive. You put dishes away, aggressive.
Yeah.
So it was always a thing that my mom used to do when she was pissed off. Like she would slam cabinets and she would like put things away loudly. So it gives me like a response. So many times when he's doing like not so much anymore because I've now asked way too many times and I know the answer every time. I'm like, "What's your problem?" He's like, "Me?" I'm like, Yeah. Why are you slamming things?"
That's funny. I've heard other eights or spouses of other eights talk about that too. Like he walks aggressive, like,
Oh my God,
right?
it's
Yeah.
loud, it's like heavy,
Yeah.
and oh God, it's just a lot sometimes.
Well, what you just said there about you navigating feelings, though, as a child makes me think more back to your question about flight, fight, flight,
Oh, fight or
freeze, or
flight, yeah.
fawn,
Yeah.
in that you're navigating the feelings sounds like fawn. I'm going to careful and I'm going to manage you and I'm going to
Mm.
navigate the feeling. Versus
Yeah,
me and the high thinking was definitely freeze. It was always the strategy to avoid anything, which was still managing feelings, right? But it was how do I have a plan that keeps me hidden and out of sight as much as
right,
possible. Yeah.
right.
Under the radar. Yeah.
Which, now that I'm thinking about it, my 9 sister, I think is actually, she might be lowest in action. I would have to look back at her report, but very similar from the standpoint of like, okay, there's a lot going on here. I'm gonna navigate this in a different way. And she might be second in action, but very rarely is it ever a confrontation about the thing.
Oh. Yeah.
It's,
I can't remember Aaron's either. Aaron's a very busy person though, so it wouldn't surprise me at all if he was highest in action. But again, I'd have to go look it up to be sure. By the way,
mhm.
remind me to tell you about him listening to the latest podcast and his response about shingle colors as a side note.
I can't wait. Okay.
But anyway, like, but a lot of the busyness, I think, is also to like cover. I'll just stay
Yes.
really busy. Like, you'll leave me alone if I'm just really busy, always doing
Yes.
something. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. That makes sense. My husband also did like a very 8 thing last night. My brother-in-law and my sister-in-law were over, and they are expecting their first baby, right? And it's a girl, and somehow like baby items came up, and like I was just cringing the whole time because he's like virtually telling them in like his very 8 energy, like, here's the things that you need. Here's the things that you, and then you have me over in the corner, like talking to my sister-in-law, being like, every kid's different. Like, you don't know what you need. You don't like, like just, it just came off as like very, I know. And I was cringing inside because I could also feel this like tension of like also he's like yapping at them when they're trying to leave, and like I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, they're like standing up, they want to leave, and he's just like, and you know, you need the outlet sock for the pull socks, blah 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 blah. And I was like, yeah, not everybody like wants that. We needed that because we're crazy and we need to know like what's the blood oxygen level of this kid while they're sleeping so then I can sleep. Like, that's why we needed that. Other people don't need that. It freaks them out sometimes. Like, the way that we did things does not. So I said that and I was like, case in point, one of our kids loved to be swaddled, the other one didn't. One loved a pacifier, the other one didn't. Like, it's just like, you
Yeah.
just figure it out. You just figure it
Yeah.
out.
Which then goes back to my thing of like how much of this stuff shows up nature versus nurture. Because if as a tiny child, the kid's like, no, thank you. And there's no, there's no opportunity for there to be influence at that point. Right.
No. No.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, all of that's very curious to me about how all of that works.
He was
And
talking
yeah.
just like my father-in-law, like just like his dad. He sounded just like my father-in-law because my father-in-law also, like, he's been a painter, like, like wall painter for like 100 years. So he's very specific on like what you need and what, like, the process and the, like, all the things. And he's got like isms that way about a lot of things where he'll be like, nope, that's not how you do it. You're going to do it this way.
Oh,
He's an
funny.
8. He's an 8.
Your father-in-law?
Yeah,
An eight
either
who
he's an 8
raised
or
an
he's
eight?
a 2. Yeah. He might be a
Wait.
2 with just a lot of stress line tendencies.
I mean, maybe. It doesn't surprise me. Like in with my mom being an 8, and I'm pretty sure that 2 of my 3 brothers are 8s.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's just like that's what's modeled and like made okay for you too,
Yes.
and whatever it is.
Yes. Very action center driven though. It's like if his dog, my father-in-law, if his dog is not walked like 2 to 3 times a day, he's like dropping hints at my mother-in-law to like if she'll do it, he'll be like, "Well, I'm gonna go do it. I'm gonna go walk." She's like, "That's fine. I'm
Oh.
just not gonna do it right this second."
So we've talked about action being first, but we haven't really talked very much about feeling being first. We talked about yours being high in feeling, how you navigate that as a kid, but not like, let's talk
Hmm.
about how like the day to day shows up for you with feeling being the highest.
Yeah, so feeling is definitely highest, and then thinking and my action is pretty low. I was looking at that in the book, and it's community, sense maker, and reflection. I think that's definitely the way that I would describe it. The feelings that I have, it ties to a bit of my social subtype of like, how do the people involved feel about what's happening? And then I have a feeling I think about, or I don't know, sometimes it's the reflection, sometimes it's trying to make sense of the feeling. I spend a lot of time trying to make sense of feelings. Case in point, like the grief that resurfaced today. I spent so much time feeling about it. And then after I kind of got the tears to stop, I was like, why is this coming up? Like, what have I not dealt with yet that I thought I was doing better? And then I sit there and I think about the last week. Like, what could have happened? What could have triggered this? Is this, you know, something else? Like, is this the dog leaving me signs? Like I think and I think and I think and I think. And I said it before the podcast started. I was like, I almost texted Brandon today, but I didn't. I didn't do it.
Just text him.
So the practicality of decision making is hard for
Say
me
more. Say more.
because sometimes I get stuck in the feel, think, feel, think, feel, think. So then I spend less time on actually having a reasonable pivot point to action, that then it feels overwhelming to make a decision, to act.
So you'd rather just keep feeling it?
Yeah, it's easier because I can also, I think what that sometimes boils down to, if I give it a more practical example, is if I get stuck in that cycle about many things, I then start doing actions and behaviors as a bit of like my emotional trash bin is completely full. And I'm starting to do actions that don't make any sense for the feeling to just like try to like have some sort of relief. So that could show up like being really impatient with my kids or being really impatient with Landon. I think it was earlier this week. I got so angry like watching him. The man pours coffee like he's making a Folgers commercial. Like it's all the way the hell up here. And he does it like he starts down low. He pours it and he gets higher and higher and higher. And I'm like, like, there's fucking little splatters of coffee. We have like white quartz countertops. I hate when coffee little specks sit on it because then I have to take a fucking magic eraser to it and it pisses me off. It had the amount of rage was irrational. I was watching him from across the kitchen with a death stare. And he like, oh my God, it was so dumb. It was so dumb. And I drove to work that morning and I had thought about like I have been piling some things. I also haven't had a call with Brandon in 2 weeks, so I've been my emotional trash bin is full. And like the kids have been fighting, like everything. It's just it's a whole like bundle of shit that I just haven't been dealing with in the right way. And so I got myself kind of through it. And we had a really interesting discussion about it last night because he's like, I went out to dinner with a friend on Thursday night. And he's like, do you like complain about me ever? And I'm like, sometimes. Like, yeah, sometimes I need a glass of wine and yap. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. He's like, I never complain about you. And I'm like, where's the receipts? Show me every group chat you're in. But he was kind of talking about it, and then I felt like such an asshole because he was like, no, like this person was talking to me about how like they were recently divorced and it was so great, blah 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 blah. And Landon's like, I would hate that when you're gone for travel for work for like 2 days or 3 days. He's like, I can't wait until you get home. And I'm like, I'm the asshole. I am the asshole.
No, you're not. No, you're not.
So a very long-winded example of if I don't deal with the feeling appropriately, it ends up in an action that I regret because I spend too much time thinking about it or not dealing with it at all.
Dealing with it. I think that so you're a feel thinks. We have a
Mm-hmm.
friend of ours who's a feel act, and the act comes very quickly after the feel. And the one thing that they're also a two, that she and I have talked about multiple times is that with that for her is that sometimes in the desire to fix. So for her, it's the I'm feeling and I'm gathering everybody's feelings around me. And now I have this desire to fix. So I take action to fix the feelings. And sometimes, again, it's a wrong action.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'm guessing wrong. I'm not, because I'm in such a hurry to
Mm-hmm.
fix the feeling
Yeah.
um, that I don't pause. And so that's an example of where the feeling action, when those two are really close, where the pause is necessary, where it's like, well, just maybe ask
Mm-hmm.
one more question before you do the thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The other thing that I would say is so I have a feeling, and then if I'm thinking about it too much and I get too much information, I don't know how to act. I don't know what to do with it. So it's the intuitive feelings that I have about other people and my surroundings innately become my own sometimes. But if I get too much of that information, I don't know what to do with it. Which sometimes is helpful, like in a work setting, because if I'm dealing with somebody's emotions, then it allows me to put the question on them as like, what's a reasonable next step?
Help
This is
me
a
help
lot.
you.
This is a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah. So that's how I would describe it. But
Okay. Well, I feel like we covered a lot of things
Yeah, we did.
And in everything that we covered, I just realized we never gave our spiel about who we are and why you should listen to us. But if you
Oh,
stuck it out
sweet.
this far, then we're not going to tell you now because you know, I'm guessing.
Watch one of the other 53 episodes.
We have more than 53. My friend, this is 59.
Is it 59?
Uh-huh.
Or maybe I was
Yep.
thinking, I was going back through our episodes on Thursday, and I think the one that I had backup was 53. I was using it as a reference.
Yes.
I needed to think back to what we were talking about so I could give someone advice, but I couldn't remember what.
Which one it was.
I use
Well,
it
we
as a
will.
library.
It is. It is. You should be able to find all the things you want, plus a side dish of life and
Yeah.
other things. But yeah, like, subscribe, leave us a review, all of those things. That stuff's super, super helpful. So if you are interested in supporting the podcast, like, subscribe, comment, engagement, all of that helps us a ton. So we would love to have you do that. Subscribe to our Substack. That's new, but we have our Substack. So if you like to read the information more than listen to it, I take each episode transcript and make a blog post so you can read about what we talked about. There's not as many Substack articles yet, though, because I'm not backlogging all of our past ones. That was a go forward move.
Yeah,
So
no.
sorry
No,
about that.
that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
All right.
Okay. Bye, Holly.
Bye. Talk to you later.